Well, hi. Today is Friday, December 27th, 2024, and this is Morning Coffee. I'm Todd Studer. Coming up in just a bit, we are going to be talking college football and a little bit of pro football. That will be with Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. Travis knows his stuff when it comes to football, and we're going to find out what he thinks about the bowl games that Nebraska plays in tomorrow. Iowa State will play in a bowl game tomorrow. And Iowa plays in their bowl game on Monday. We'll talk about all those. We'll talk about the college football playoff. And we might even hear a shot or two from Travis about my own team. So that is all on the way. Don't forget to click on the link that's in the description from the AIM Institute. That is an eventbrite.com link that will take you to where you can sign up for a free web development class. And this is not just some short class that only lasts for a couple of hours. This is a 12-week course, 2 times a week, and it will be on Google Meet. But you do need to get signed up to be able to do this. What a wonderful opportunity to learn some more about web development and find out maybe this is a new career that you would like to be able to get into. You're going to learn an awful lot during this 12-week course that, as I mentioned, is completely free. So click on the link and also go to aiminstitute.org and learn more about that organization. Also, Sprout Marketing Solutions is a proud supporter of Morning Coffee. That is Kelsey Rollins, who is doing some great things in the area, helping to promote local businesses. And she is getting tons of great reviews from the clients that she has. And there's a reason for that, because Kelsey really knows her stuff. So when you're ready to take your business to the next level with online marketing, might be direct mail marketing, all kinds of things that Kelsey can help you with, go to sproutmarketingsolutions.com to learn more. Prairie and Pine Real Estate Group, that is Keller Williams, Greater Omaha. Mackenzie Shelton and her team can help you buy or sell your home. Now, typically this time of year, you're not going to see a whole lot going on in the real estate market, but what a better time to start talking with Mackenzie and find out, especially if you have a home that you want to be able to sell soon, what do you need to do in order to get the best value and the most money out of your home? Mackenzie can help you with that. So go to prairieandpinerealestategroup.com, set up an appointment to talk with her and her team about that. All right. As I mentioned, we're going to learn a little bit more now about the college football games coming up this weekend. Joining us now, it is Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. And anytime we want to talk college football or pro football, we bring Travis on. And I know that as we are recording this, look, we've talked about this before, that it's no mystery. It's not like we're live when these are released, because nobody's.
And we're watching the Packers. I'm watching the Packers play right now. So
right, yeah, so that's what's happening. For what it is. So if you just start yelling, we're going to know that the TV's on and you're still.
If I go like this, or if I drop an F-bomb, it's either really good or really bad. So the only bad part is the Vikings aren't losing today. So I can't root against the Vikings. So it's or the Cowboys. So
the Cowboys actually did me a favor by beating Tampa Bay. So
the Cowboys have been eliminated from playoff contention. So all you Cowboy fans up there. So
all right. Well, before we lose any more listeners or viewers,
the 5 listeners you have are down to 3 because they're Cowboy fans. So Travis.
All right, let's begin by talking about the bowl games that have the most interest locally. Obviously, Hawkeyes, Cyclones, and Huskers all in bowl games, and things begin on Saturday. Huskers actually play their game first. They're in the Pinstripe Bowl, and I mentioned it on yesterday's show, or on Monday's show, that and this was, I found kind of interesting, that since the Pinstripe Bowl came into existence, and they take a Big Ten team, they've chosen 10 different Big Ten teams in those 10 years. No one's ever repeated going to New York.
Yeah, so because we're the only ones dumb enough that want to play a bowl game in cold weather. So you don't see the SEC, you don't see the ACC, there is no Pac-12, or Big 12. Why let's go play a cold weather game?
Exactly. All right, so Nebraska is taking on Boston College, and everybody is, everybody talks about, the transfer portal and it's causing problems with the bowl games, but everybody's dealing with it. Yeah. So with this particular game, I think Nebraska probably has more to play for in this thing, than Boston College is they're there, they're not there, but Nebraska, I think they've really got something to prove in this thing.
I think that's improved, number one. Number two, listen, these 15 practices or whatever they get before the bowl game is huge. It's really for Nebraska. They have not had a bowl game for years. If they're going to make that next step, still got a young quarterback. He's had a month practice, and there's been some rumors going around about him too. But if you're Nebraska, you're working the young kids that are going to be playing in the future. You're getting some guys healthy, and you're getting ready for this bowl game. And listen, after 8 years of not being one, you want to go out and put a show on. So, and after they lost the end of the year, I'm sure they would probably like to avenge, how they finish up the season against Iowa. So I would expect a strong performance from Nebraska. I mean, being a Big Ten school, you want to be, I don't like Nebraska, but I do want the Big Ten to win. So I would expect Nebraska to come out and play pretty well.
All right. Also going on Saturday is what I think is the worst name for a bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I struggle with this.
With red and yellow like ketchup Pop-Tarts, I mean,
But you got Iowa State taking on Miami of Florida, and I think, is there a rougher team that ISU could have gotten for a pick to play in the bowl game?
Both teams are motivated. Miami got, I guess you could say, they ditched themselves in November. They didn't win the games they needed to do to get into the college football playoff. It is what it is. They didn't even play for their conference title. So you got Iowa State, who played really well. I mean, I won't say they played really well. They played good enough to get to the title game, and it ran into a buzzsaw in Arizona State. That Shuby or Scooby or whatever their running back is still running.
He's good.
Yeah, and so if you're Iowa State, you got something to prove. It sounds like Iowa State's kind of got, they've been doing some stuff in their transfer portal. I have not heard of anybody opting out of the game, but like everybody else, they're losing some players because they got to get down to 105. And it's going to be interesting. Is Iowa State going to have a hangover and not want to be there? Is Miami going to whatever? And listen, Miami's defense stinks. So, Iowa State can play defense. So I got to believe that this is going to be a close ball game, and Iowa State has been pretty solid on offense all year. I mean, the Big 12 championship side, I'm not 100% sure what the line is, but it can't be more than a touchdown. And one thing about Iowa State fans will travel, they'll be at the game, and and who knows with Miami, you just. You lost to Syracuse at the end of the year. What does that say? Losing Arizona State was a lot better loss, than what Syracuse was, obviously. So,
and then you've got Iowa playing on Monday in Nashville. I'm assuming you're not going to the game. Did you make that call? I haven't heard.
Yeah, just too much stuff going on. I've got holes in my front backyard.
We'll talk about that in a second.
If it ain't employees, it's dogs. It's myself falling in holes. So we gotta get my backyard put back together. But would love to go to the Green Bay Minnesota game, but that's probably not in the cards either. So maybe a playoff game. We'll see.
So Iowa taking on a fairly decent Missouri team. I think Missouri started off a whole lot better, but they're going into this game ranked 19th in the country. So, and they have slowly been improving over the years. I mean, Missouri used to not do very well, and now they're getting better playing in a really tough conference.
Yeah, everybody remembers last year they beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and they beat them pretty good in the Cotton Bowl. So, you take a look at Mizzou. They were ranked as high as 9th earlier in the year. I know they lost to, I believe, South Carolina. And they lost, 3 games on their schedule. They are in the SEC, and here recently, we've had, a recruiting battle with Missouri. There was a kid from Northwest Missouri State that Iowa and Missouri were looking at. And the kid decided to go to Mizzou. And then there was the quarterback from Penn State that Pribula or some Bo Pribula or whatever it was. It was down.
Yeah, he ended up going to Missouri.
Yeah, and there were some Iowa fans that were honked off on Twitter about, the Swarm ain't got any money. No, he just, he'd say it. It came down to Iowa's quarterback play the last 4 years has not been good. So right. I think he made I think long term he might regret the decision, but he made a decision that's best for him given the time. So with that being said, with the game, Iowa, had some players that have come back. They have the players that they've lost in a transfer portal have not seen significant play time. They've got, it sucks that Caleb Johnson's opted out, but I also understand why he's opted out. He's going to go make a lot of money on Sundays, and if he got hurt at this point, he owes Iowa nothing. Jay Higgins is going to play. A lot of players are going to play. They're going to get their offensive line. Logan Jones is coming back for another year. It sounds like they were like at the end of the year that Iowa's offensive line maybe wasn't going to have a lot coming back, but now it sounds like 3/5 of their starting offensive line will be back next year, which it turns a big question mark into you feel a lot better about it. And so I think for Iowa, you want to see Sullivan play a huge game. He got hurt versus UCLA. Hopefully maybe Jackson Stratton will get a little bit of playing time. You're going to get to see what, they say that Tim Lester's been working on the offense the last month of practice really hard, and he's not going to recruit in the spring because he wants to work with the quarterbacks. Maybe we'll start to see some fruit of that labor in the bowl game. So, maybe I will be pass the ball a little bit in a bowl game. That'd be a novel thought.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, what is this? Now we got to catch the ball. There is that side of it. You're going to say, what's that brown thing flying in here? What am I supposed to do with that? I would love to see someone like Luke Lachey come out, have his final game, and catch 10 balls for 200 yards. I mean, that kid has been the most underutilized Iowa tight end in years in the passing game. I would love to see them get him involved and do something big in this bowl game to help his draft stock. Kid deserves it. He's a great player. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people once he gets to the NFL. I think he's going to get drafted, and I think he's going to play a lot on Sunday. You're going to be like, well, why didn't he do this at Iowa? And I'm going to say, well, look at your quarterback room. Do
you have a prediction on the Iowa-Mizzou game?
I would say 30, I'm going to say 27, 24, 24, 21. I don't think it's not going to be more than a touchdown. Last I saw, Vegas had it at 3. As far as picking a winner, who knows? What we don't know is what's happened with Missouri, since the bowl. I'm still mad about 2020 when they didn't want to play this game, the COVID year. They opted out. Michigan opted out of COVID, and then, Missouri opted out of COVID, and so there was no bowl game to be played. So, which was pretty, disappointing. So, last time we played it was 10 years ago. We beat them in Arizona, I believe is what it was. It wasn't the Fiesta Bowl. It was some other bowl before that. So it's been a while. We've played them.
The Sun Bowl? Was that one used to be down there?
No, that's El Paso. This was in Arizona because they played the Fiesta Bowl. They played the Fiesta Bowl in Tempe. But that's been 10 years ago, and Iowa beat them. But it's considered it's a border state school. It's probably besides that, that's a school we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about because they just don't. Iowa State used to play them, but now that Missouri's an SEC, they don't play Iowa State, so you don't hear a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, Iowa City and Columbia are not that far apart.
They're not. They maybe wrestle some, but they haven't played much in basketball. They're just, I don't know. It's kind of a weird deal. They have not played a lot over the years, and you would think being that close, you'd see a lot more of them playing. So.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the college football playoffs. First year ever having 12 teams. In the first round, all the favorites won, all the home teams won, and it was it kind of went as expected. And then you start getting people complaining, well, Indiana shouldn't have been there. I don't believe that. I think that Indiana played the schedule that was in front of them. They won the games they needed to, won them convincingly, earned their way in. Sorry that they did not play well against Notre Dame. But they earned their way into that playoff.
Listen, you go 11-1. I mean, you take a look at, I go back to 2015 when Iowa and Michigan State played. If there's 12-team playoff, the Big Ten titles for the 4th and 5th seed, in Iowa, in that year, Iowa would have had a home game, first round bowl, a home game against whoever. in a football playoff. So, I mean, different rules, different whatever. But, I think it's going to be, I think Indiana deserved it. There's 4 Big Ten teams. I think the best 3 teams are left standing. I no doubt in my mind. Penn State pulled one out, I think, probably against the weakest, team, which was SMU. But they won, and that, Oregon didn't play, obviously, but Ohio State, I think Ohio State sent a message that, the team that played against Michigan, don't know what happened, not sure what happened there in that game, but Ohio State's got a lot of talent, and their quarterback played like, he played like he wants to win a national title. Now they got to play Oregon in the Rose Bowl now, but there's a lot of people that think it could come down to Ohio State and Georgia, and you'd have a hard time getting me to argue with that. So, because at this point, who knows? And look at Texas's road. I think Texas plays Arizona State, and I'm not sure that Arizona State can hang with Texas, because Texas is very good on both sides of the offense and defensive line. I don't think they run the ball like they did versus Iowa State. So.
No, probably not. We've also got Penn State, Boise State. That's actually the first game that's going to be played on Friday. The other 3 are on New Year's Day. Or I'm sorry, on Tuesday, December 31st, and then the other 3 are on New Year's Day on Wednesday. And you said Boise State, Penn State. I think Penn State should win that game.
Yeah, I listen. Genty's a great story, but listen. The last time Boise State was knocked out or thought they could have beat them, they beat Oklahoma. I think that was in the Fiesta Bowl too. Mm-hmm. So, I do, but they're not playing. Where are they playing? They're playing in the Sugar Bowl, aren't they?
Boise State and Penn State's a Fiesta Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl. Okay, so Boise will have a lot of fans there. I'm sure Penn State will have a lot of fans there too. That's probably a pick'em game. I'd like to think Penn State, but if Genty starts to run the ball over Penn State, it's going to be a long day for Penn State. I think that'll be a high scoring game, if you know what I'm saying. So, but it should be a fun game to watch. So the good part is we won't have to look at blue turf. So I'm very glad for that. So
I heard a story about that blue turf that there was a local school who was thinking about putting blue turf down. So they went out there and looked at it, and there was some of the staff at Boise State walked out there and picked up a bird. And they said, well, what's that all about? Well, birds think it's water, and they go nose diving into the field.
Oh,
apparently it's a problem out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, it is what it is. So, but
all right. So that's the Fiesta Bowl. We talked about Arizona State and Texas in the Peach Bowl, Oregon and Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl is Georgia and Notre Dame. Now here's the thing with this game. In my opinion, Georgia should win. Mm-hmm. However, we have seen Georgia play badly this year on more than one occasion. So what is going to happen? What team is going to show up? You would think they'd be ready for this, but Notre Dame's already, they played a game. Sometimes that helps.
I would like to say that I would naturally pick Georgia because I think Georgia's probably the more physical team. But remember early in the year, they played Texas A&M. Notre Dame played Texas A&M and Texas A&M, and they won the game. Then the next week they lost to Northern Illinois, and it might have been hangover from that Texas A&M game from the way they played. So, I think that's an interesting game. Here's the other thing that Georgia's got going against them. They're going to have their backup quarterback, which I think, listen, Georgia's number 2 quarterback is probably better than 90% of the other college quarterbacks that are out there. I mean, there's a reason Raiola's at Nebraska, folks. So as he was going to go to Georgia, he probably read the room and said, maybe I'm not going to play a whole lot here. So, I think that game could be very interesting. The odds makers are going to pick Georgia. If you asked me if I was betting my house on it, I'd have to say Georgia, but I would not be holy cow, what a run. But I mean, I don't think Notre Dame's going to get past Georgia, but if they came back, it'd be because Notre Dame was able to out physical Georgia, which, the last 2 times that Notre Dame has played, a bowl game against an SEC school, they've gotten rocked pretty good. So, so that would be my thought. I think the most entertaining, the most exciting game of that whole four, I think, is going to be Oregon and Ohio State. And at this point, I think it is a crapshoot. I think almost any, but the only team that I don't think they can win it all, or two teams, is Boise State, Arizona State. I don't think they got the horses. I think the other six could find a way to win it all, just depend on how things break and how the matchups are.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And then the semifinals be played on January 9th and 10th. That is a Thursday, Friday. And then we have to wait around until January 20th for the championship game. We're playing college football on January 20th.
That's all right. It used to be, I still remember, back in the 80s growing up, one thing about it, you'd have to go watch Nebraska go lose the Orange Bowl. And then the Big Ten's going to go out and get beat by whoever in the Rose Bowl. It's like, okay, get excited. Oh, wait a minute. Ronnie Harmon fumbled 4 times in the ball game, or Nebraska's going to go play whoever and just get steamrolled. I mean, I remember that. But you're always, by midnight on January 2nd, the bowl games were done. Now you got 3 weeks to talk about it. So,
yeah,
who's your? I still think Ohio State's going to find a way and win it. It's going to be the winner of Ohio State, Oregon. I'm going to pick Ohio State. Who do you think's going to win
it? If you're making me pick a team right now, I think Texas is going to get it figured out. And
yeah.
Texas
get an argument for me.
Yeah, Texas has had their issues too, but I mean, it's college football, and let's be honest here. You're dealing with young men, and things like this, you never know specifically how their head is going to be, because none of them have been on a platform like this before. Not this format.
No, not the only thing I will say is if Texas plays Georgia. No, then I'm going to pick Georgia. I mean, we've seen that twice this year. So, But I think there's every other team that's on that list. Absolutely. And same thing with Oregon. I mean, Oregon's only, they're 13-0. I mean, I'm saying, well, Ohio State's going to beat them. Oregon's good, but I don't think they're going to be able to. Boise State played them close, but that's what everybody forgets about Boise State. And then Wisconsin, they only beat Wisconsin by 3 up at Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin was terrible this year. This was after Wisconsin, I think, fired their offensive coordinator. And Oregon just did not play well. So Oregon could lay a duck in the Rose Bowl too. Wouldn't surprise me. So
well, it's a great time of year. Personally, I hate the playoffs. I would much rather just argue about who you think is a national champion, because we got people arguing about who should be in the playoffs. It's no different. We're still having the arguments.
Well, of course, gotta do the stuff. I mean, you're a Falcons fan. There's hope for you.
Yeah, there's a little bit of hope.
Hey, you're in first place in your division. So
at 8-7.
Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, Seattle played it in 1 year and they were 7-9. Yeah, they were 7-9, and then they beat Dallas in the playoffs. So, so I mean, there's always hope. So,
well, yeah, I think it wasn't the last year the Giants won it all, weren't they? 9-7 going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then Green Bay, the last time they won their Super Bowl, they were a road team throughout the playoffs. I mean, the home when it goes to the playoffs, it's who's hot and who's doing, who's playing their best. I mean. You start talking NFL, there's 4 teams in the NFL in the NFC side, that I think can make a run to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to put my Packers in there, but I think the Eagles, Lions, and Vikings, as much as that pains me to say the Vikings, but I do think, any one of them teams, could go to the Super Bowl. And I shouldn't take out the Redskins, or I say the Commanders. I won't call them the Redskins. But the Redskins are really good. I mean, they're playing well. So I wouldn't pick them to go. I think they're a year away. But then the AFC, I still think it's going to come down to Kansas City or Buffalo. And the way Buffalo's been kind of playing with their offense, I mean, it's like video games.
Well, there's a couple of things on both sides of there. One is Detroit's going to get burned. They play too loose. And they're constantly taking chances. And that's going to burn you.
Eventually
it will.
did last year. If they'd kicked field goals and not went for it, they'd have been playing in the Super Bowl last year. Yeah. So you got a second crack at it now. So I imagine you don't want to go too conservative, but I think at some point you got to decide if you're up, you got to take points. You can't just get crazy, because against good teams, I mean, if Detroit's playing Green Bay or they're playing Minnesota or they're playing Philadelphia, you're gonna get burnt by good teams by doing that, and they'll game plan for it too, because they know you're gonna do it. It's like, how long before they fall into the trap? So,
and on the flip side, the Chiefs, they're not putting anybody away. These are all close games, and it's. People are starting to think that, there's something magic about this team, or the refs are on their side, or whatever. I don't believe that, but I do think that Buffalo is a better team this year.
Oh yeah, I think Buffalo's a better team, and Baltimore lost to him early. I don't know, Baltimore. They get into the playoffs. Of course, thought that last year, in Kansas City tore them up in the playoffs at Baltimore too. I don't know. Lamar Jackson one of these years, and with Derrick Henry, I don't know. They got to outscore Buffalo. If I'm Baltimore, I'd much rather play Kansas City than Buffalo, because I don't think they can outscore Buffalo. I think they can beat Kansas City. But I think it's down to 3 teams in the AFC. I just don't see anybody else. And if you had to ask me, I would pick Buffalo. So
I'd kind of like to see it.
Yeah, Buffalo.
I would, if I was choosing. I think, because being a sports guy, being a sports reporter for as long as I was, the cliche is we don't root for teams, we root for stories. Well, the story that I would really like to see is Buffalo against Detroit in the Super Bowl.
Or Minnesota.
I don't think Detroit will be there, but
or Minnesota.
Well, now that would actually, now again, I know how you feel about Minnesota, but think about it. That both teams 0-4 in the Super Bowl. Yeah, somebody's gonna win. It was.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone's got to break the streak. So, don't worry. Minnesota's pretty good for wide left or wide right. So, if it comes down to their kicker, Minnesota's screwed. So,
also Buffalo.
Yeah, well, that is true. Yeah, Scott Norwood. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I forget about that little detail. So,
anyway, Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, Waldstein Plumbing. Always great to talk to you, especially when we get to talk about football. And I'm glad that Santa Claus brought you a septic system.
Yep.
And but he didn't leave his elves there to do the installation.
No, we got to do the installation. That'll be the next thing we'll be offering. So but there's no glitters on our shitter like I found last year. So I'm just calling it out for what it is. Yeah.
All right, we'll check in again as we continue on through this football.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
If you're in the market for a used car, GT Motors needs to be on your list of the lots that you stop at and take a look at what inventory they have. You can go to gtmotorscb.com and see what they have listed. However, it changes so often, and there's times that they cannot keep up with the different cars that they have on their lot, or maybe they've sold one recently. So go to the lot, talk with the team there, and see what they have, and find out what they can do for you, what kind of deals they can make for you, get you into a quality used car. And they even do financing right there on site. GTMotorsCB.com is the website. And the Mile Away will be a great place to stop in and watch some of these football games that Travis and I were talking about. Mile Away located on Old Lincoln Highway north of Council Bluffs, and has some great food at a great price. Their drink menu is very reasonable. It is just tons of fun, and no better place, in my opinion, to stay and watch a game than at the Mile Away, Old Lincoln Highway north of Council Bluffs. That's going to wrap up another week of Morning Coffee. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you for the support, for the encouraging words. Just a couple of more shows before we head into the new year, 2025. It seems strange even saying that, but that's where we're at. So let's just embrace it and power ahead into the future. So we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday morning. My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you then.